Nvidia and various semiconductor stocks took a hit on Friday. There are some that believe this is the beginning of the end for what they call the AI bubble. For those that know me, I cover the semiconductor market on a daily basis, and today I want to share my thoughts on Nvidia's price action, where I think the future is heading, and my thoughts on the AI bubble. Finally, I will share a market that I believe could be a good potential for my future investments in the semiconductor space. So, let's take a closer look in today's episode.
I want to thank The Motley Fool for sponsoring this video, and check out fool.com/Jose for the 10 best stocks to buy now. With that link, you get a promotional offer for the subscription service. Now, let's continue with today's episode.
First, I want to start off with price action. Unfortunately, we did see some negative price action for Nvidia on Friday. The stock was down roughly 5.5%, and we can see the after hours, the stock is down roughly 2.7%. And from the peak on Friday, the stock is down now roughly 12.48%. If you take a closer look at the after hour prices decline as well. So I've got a lot of comments here and there saying, hey, Jose, what are we doing with Nvidia at these price points? Should we be worried? For me, I am a long-term investor. And as a long-term investor, these price actions don't really mean too much for me, right? We can see year to date, the stock is still up over 81%. Even in the past 5 days, even with that decline, the stock is still up 4%, not counting the after hour prices. But we can see even in the past 5 days, even with the huge decline, the stock is still in the green. And obviously, if we take a closer look in the past year, we can see how much Nvidia stock price has gone up. And for some of us that are fortunate to have entered in Nvidia at such an early price, these declines are not the worst thing. I'm not going to say I'm out here buying, but stocks don't go up forever and ever. And throughout the past episodes, I have talked about that, hey, maybe one of the biggest risks for Nvidia is just the crazy valuations we've seen. Even though I have some fear of that risk, I have no intentions of selling because in the long term, in the next 5 to 10 years, I still believe Nvidia will be a bigger company than it is today. And that's something I just want to reiterate to all my viewers. I'm not here for the short term of things. Now, and I do believe Nvidia has the power that in 2050, if we continue the way we're going, is going to be one of those companies that completely change the world. So for me, I have this long-term mentality that, hey, look, I have no thoughts of selling this company. I have no fears of the price taking a nice hit. I do believe that that is a huge potential, and we're seeing it right now, where the prices can continue to get hit for numerous reasons. Right, the semiconductor market, to the end of the day, has always given us some form of cyclicality. I've been in the semiconductor space for a very long time. And every time we see some new craziness or some new hype, everybody says it's different. And while I do believe AI has great potential and it's going to revolutionize the way the tech market goes and the products that we're going to see in the future, there's always some truth to history. So there might be a time where we might think this is a AI bubble to some extent or over inventory corrections. And when I talk about AI bubble, I feel like I've used this term a few times. I feel like I mean it. I'm not portraying exactly what I mean. Most people, when they say AI bubble, they think that this AI is just hype or this AI has no real room in the technology world or this AI is not real technology. I am someone who's constantly reading, who's constantly learning, who's trying to learn from other smart from people that are smarter than me to see what's the potential of AI. And the more and more that I read, I believe this is technology that's going to completely change the world. Maybe it might not happen in the next year, maybe it might not happen in the 2 years, but in the future, AI is going to completely shift the world, and Nvidia is in the forefront of it. Now, when I say AI bubble, I mean more the AI economics. And this is where we don't know where it's going to go. Right now, we're seeing all cloud service providers increase their capital expenditure. We're seeing NVIDIA being able to sell their chips at crazy margins, at crazy prices. So when I talk about AI bubble, I'm not talking about the technology itself or AI hype. I'm talking more about the economics behind it. It's such new technology, and there's so much innovation that can happen in the next 5 years that a company like this technology can shift very quickly as quickly as this came. And that's the uncertainty behind AI, in my opinion. It's not the uncertainty that this technology will drive future changes, it's more the uncertainty of the economics behind these changes and how it might shift within the next 5 years. So I just wanted to, again, just share my overall thoughts. I feel I do a lot of videos on NVIDIA that I sometimes it gets with all those videos, it might seem like I'm just thinking about the now and the current prices. That's not the thing. Here, I'm long term investing. I'm looking for this company for the next 15, 20, 30 years. It's one of those companies that I'm going to say, hey, like I mentioned, right? It's one of those companies that you always wish you can go back in time and it's like, hey, I wish I can tell my 20-year-old self, my 30-year-old self to invest in this company because it completely changed the world. Before we go any further, I just want to say thank you all for the amazing support we are getting in this channel. We're closing into 40,000 subs. That is insane. So if you haven't and you are enjoying the content, make sure to hit the thumbs up and the subscribe button. Finally, if you want to support this channel a little bit more, check out my special offer at fool.com/Jose. Now back to today's episode. So now off to that rant, I just want to take a closer look at kind of forward PE ratios. Right now, Nvidia, even with that decline, is sitting at a forward 1-year PE ratio of 29.85. In theory, based on these valuations, it's still cheaper than Microsoft and still cheaper than Amazon to some extent. So something to keep in mind out. Again, the big uncertainty here against all the other players is the economics of AI in the next 2 years, not the the technology, like I've discussed, is more the economics behind it and what it can mean to these valuations and to these analyst estimates that we continue to see on a very bullish trend. Regardless, right now for Nvidia, while it is my number one position, I have no intentions of buying, no intentions of selling. But if I was to buy, it would be very small dollar cost averaging over time, just because there's so much priced in to some extent. At the same time, there's still so much room to grow. So it's one of those that I personally will be very, very careful. So if you remember in the intro of the video, I mentioned that I was going to talk about a sector in the semiconductor space that I believe is great for my future investments or for my future money. And before I get there, I just want to talk about the cyclicality here in the semiconductor space and what we typically see. In the semiconductor space, many believe that when the revenue tops, that's when stock prices start to go down. But we can see here in two different occasions within the past 5 years that when the revenue has topped for Micron technology, and this is pretty much what happens throughout the semiconductor space, you have already seen a quite of a decline in the stock price itself. So we can see here around 2019 and early 2020 when revenue peaked. In taking a closer look at 2012 months, the overall stock price took a nice dive. We also saw this in this recent over inventory correction that happened in 2022. The revenue peaked, but before revenue peak, we did see a nice decline in stock prices. Now, what's even more interesting is during a semiconductor cycle, while revenue is going down, you tend to see stock prices go up. And the reason being is most people have already seen that, hey, look, while we are expected to continue to see weakness in the next 2 quarters, if we start to look at the next year or more, it does seem like the bullish trend will continue. So that's why even though revenue continues to decline in both segments, you do see an increase in overall stock price. Now that we understand that, I believe that the current market that is kind of seeing this cycle is the automotive space. So the sector I believe is in a current downturn that might end soon. And obviously, I don't know when it will end soon, but with overall history, it tells me that right now is the perfect time to start dollar cost averaging. It's not the perfect time to load up the truck because obviously headwinds can continue and we can continue to see a decrease in price. But dollar cost averaging at this time could be very, very beneficial. And in the automotive space, we are seeing a lot of headwinds, and we have heard rumors and regards from other companies that are in the automotive space that the market might see a nice turnaround in the upcoming quarters. So right now, the companies I'm going to do an episode either tomorrow or the day after where I take a closer look at 5 stocks in the automotive space that I find pretty interesting. But right now, this is the market that I believe if you are a semiconductor investor, you should definitely take a closer look on and try to find some businesses in this space that you wouldn't mind investing for the long term of things. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. Take care, have a good day, and see you next time.